Hey, guys.
Go ahead, Lavetta. You can do it. Welcome to.
Hey, guys. Welcome to Notorious Women Podcast. I'm Lavetta.
I'm Miriam.
And this is Notorious Women, a comedy podcast about some of history's most notorious women.
That's right. That's right. Okay, so my face is this, and I'm going to share this. Okay, so you know when you get your period? Yes.
Yes.
I said the word period. Listen, do you listen to Dark History?
No.
It's okay. Look, you have to. It's so good. I love her. Okay, so she did an episode, and it was an old episode because I'm like new to this podcast, so I'm backtracking. But she did the history of like your period, and okay, listen, it's very like the fact that we don't celebrate the blood every month is very disrespectful to women. Okay, I'm starting a new trend. I'm probably going to piss off a lot of my friends, but I'm okay with that.
You're okay with it. It's fine.
I'm okay with that because listen, the history, it's bleak. Okay. But some of it is not bleak. Okay. You have to listen to I'm not going to go into detail, but every so often they like honored the women for like leading in order to create life. Right. Okay. But like so much of history is like, burn her. She's bleeding, you know? And I'm like, fuck that. I'm bleeding and I'm tired and I don't feel good. And then I'm sorry, I'm going to rant for just a quick more minute. I remember someone telling me, I think it was a man, probably, who was like, do you know that women are not supposed to cramp? And if you like lived life correctly, you wouldn't. Okay.
Wait a minute. Wait, back up. So
yeah,
a man mansplained your period to you.
That is what happened. That is what happened. And I was so like, and for my whole life until I'm listening to this podcast, I'm thinking maybe I'm like fucking it up a little and needing the Advil. No. And like ancient Greek times, there were like things that they used to make them feel better. Okay.
Well, you know what? It's so funny you're talking about the period thing because there's on YouTube is a rabbit hole, but sometimes YouTube produces some good stuff. There's a couple of videos of men trying out simulated cramps. There's like a machine.
Yes, I know.
It is so funny.
But here's my thing. They do it once. How many times in a lifetime do we cramp? Oh my God. Hundreds, thousands.
What's so funny though is that that man who mansplained your period to you.
Yeah. So grateful for him.
These guys put on these things. It's like a little patch or something. Ooh. And they put it on and they can't even get past like the second level for like a minute.
And we don't even take Advil till the fourth level. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're like, I'll walk it off. It's fine.
But it's so funny because you could tell the ones who are like, man, and it's like, sometimes it's like these really young, like athletic guys. And they're like, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. And they're like, what? They're like, what is happening? I highly recommend people check that out.
I'm going to look that up later. Yes, I am.
Yes. But I guess we should get started this week. I believe I am first.
Okay. I never know.
This week. I have to look it up right before.
Listen, you are my guide. I'm just here. And you tell me what to do. And then I do it. It's fine.
Guys, she's being modest, but
not.
But I have to pretend like I'm smart, but I literally look it up like right before we get on.
It's very convincing. You're very convincing. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, thank you. Well, Miriam, you know how this month is Black History Month?
I do know that.
The only month of the year that in America that we pretend that Black people exist, have any history. It's the shortest fucking month of the year.
Is it?
But I digress.
I remember, back when I thought racism was cured, thinking that I was a joke that it was the shortest month, but actually it's probably pretty specifically the shortest month.
fucked up. Why can't we get March? 31 days, bitches.
Right?
Why can't we get March?
Couldn't get 31 days.
No,
okay.
They're like 28. You Negroes get 21 days. 28 days, I mean. But
every 4 years you get 29. Calm down.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Now,
okay.
It's like, what else you want, Negroes? But okay. So because it's Black History Month, and I need to keep my Black card because I don't know if you know this about me. I love yacht rock. I don't know if you know that.
Wait. I don't know what you just said.
You don't know what yacht rock is?
No.
Yacht rock is. I listen to the Sirius XM station. Yacht rock is cool, smooth jazz and R&B from the 70s and 80s. And they have a man on there that does this, and he's like, this is yacht rock radio.
I feel like when I was a kid, and it was like, I think I liked it a lot when I was a kid. I didn't know it was called yacht rock.
I think they just recently started calling it yacht rock, but like, it's basically like Christopher Cross, the Pointer Sisters, like, I want a man with the slow hand.
Yes. No, like I would listen at night. I had like a little radio, and I would listen at night to like music, like calm. And I loved that stuff.
Yeah, that's yacht rock. I love yacht rock, but yacht rock, even though there's a lot of Black artists obviously in it, but that are considered part of yacht rock, it's considered a very like white type of music.
Yeah, that feels like little me would have loved that.
But right? I love it. It's like Hall & Oates. Oh yes, give me some Hall & Oates. Yeah. Or like they'll bring back like old jams, like stuff my parents used to listen to, or my grandparents. There's this one guy, I don't even know his name, is like Show and Tell, or like Peaches and Herb Reunited. So anyway,
yes,
I can get it to the yacht rock. I love yacht rock. It's considered very white. So my Black card is always being threatened. Miriam, I just want you to know that.
I'm so sorry. My
Even
Jewish
though I'm
card
a dark skin.
Listen, my Jewish card is also at risk very consistently.
So I have to always proclaim my Blackness, especially since the month they gave us Negroes for Black History Month, February. So here I go. So my Notorious woman this week is not only is she a Black woman, but she is a Black Canadian woman because, hello to our Black people throughout the diaspora. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And in the United States, we don't tend to focus on a lot of other people's history. You have to go to college for that or be in AP classes.
Like anybody else, honestly. Like the world's America, right?
The world's America.
And then everything else is like not America. So like not that interesting. Right.
Yeah, we don't even know American history. So let's not even get started on that. But
that's a very good point. Okay.
But my Notorious woman this week is a woman by the name of Viola Desmond. Are you familiar with Viola?
I'm not.
It's old school. Her name is Viola. Viola is an old school name.
I love it.
Viola.
It's musical.
Yeah, it's a very beautiful name. My school is old school, actually. My name is actually old school. There are a lot more Lavettas in the 1800s than there are now.
I mean, I love your name. I mean, my name is Miriam. You want to talk about old school?
That is old school. Yeah.
I'm like
biblical old school.
I'm a great grandma. Okay. Yeah. I look good though.
That's right. You do. So Viola Desmond was born on July 6, 1914 in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada.
Okay.
Yeah, she was born to James Albert Davis, a longshoreman, and he later became a barber, and Gwendolyn Irene Davis, the daughter of a white Canadian minister, and his wife, who had moved to Halifax from New Haven, Connecticut.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So she is the granddaughter of her grandfather was white and her grandmother was Black. So she is, I wonder if they moved up there to escape like miscegenation laws in the United States.
So what year?
So she was born, Viola was born in 1914, but she's the granddaughter of a mixed race relationship.
Yeah, I'm trying to do math. It's not working, but I feel like you're onto something. That makes sense to me.
It just occurred to me. So Viola now, growing up, she was one of 10 children. And her family was they were pretty middle class. So they were doing really well for Black folks. In
10 children, damn.
This area, I know, right? And her family was highly regarded in the community. So it's a very solidly middle class Black family. And yeah, like it's great. So now growing up in the area, there was an absence of professional hair and skincare products for Black women.
Okay.
Because it's 1920s, 30s.
I mean, we're still dealing with that. So
yeah, I mean, it's a little bit better now. We finally have options in the last 10 years, but affordable
that
options.
took a while, right? Like it took a long time.
Don't even get me started.
Long time.
Yeah.
Also, like when we color something like a foundation is nude. For who's nude for this foundation? It's
don't even get me started.
What? Who's tan? Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, we actually, as Black women, have options like hair care and skincare products like more than ever. For all skin tones. So it's really great. But around this time, that was not the case. So there was an absence of professional hair and skincare products for Black women when she came of age. So she set her sights on addressing this need as she became older.
Okay.
Being of African descent, she was not allowed to train to become a beautician in Halifax. Yes. In Canada. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So it turns out they were racist in Canada also? What?
I mean, it's European people. Canada was colonized too. So I think people forget that.
It's funny. Like
America.
even now people are, I'm going to leave this terrible country and go to Canada. I'm like, well, I mean, you can do that. I hear you.
Let's be fair. Canada's still better than the United States. But
I mean, yes, true.
But it's not like rainbows and butterflies. So, but the fact that, just remember that. So because she was of African descent, she was not allowed to train to become a beautician. There was no school in Halifax that would take her because she was Black.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. That's fine. I'm not fine with that. Go on.
So even though this is her dream that she wants to work hard and pull herself up by her bootstraps, there's no school that will admit you, right? So
wait, so hold on just one moment. You can't pull yourself up by your bootstraps. I don't understand.
Yeah. It's a puzzle. It's a puzzle. So
I was told.
I know. So, but because of this, in Halifax, she left when she came of age. So after a brief short time of teaching in 2 racially segregated schools for Black children, again, yes, this is in Canada, she left Halifax in search of training to become a beautician. So she went to Montreal and then she went to Atlantic City in the States.
So that's interesting that she ended up in the States.
Well, yeah, because I think, a lot of times, I mean, also because we're America, but Black people in Canada are similar to Black people in America in the sense that we are in the minority, like in numbers.
Yeah.
So it's not like in the Caribbean or even the continent, motherland of Africa, where there's, obviously apartheid, segregation, colonialism, all of that. But Black people, the system of discrimination is set up differently, right? So in Africa and the parts of the Caribbean, Black people are the majority in numbers. So they're being ruled by harshly ruled by a minority population. But in the United States and in Canada, that's flipped.
Right. It's also fucked up.
Yeah. But. So we're just going to go about we're going to go about finding our own way in the world in different ways. one is not better than the other. It's just different. So because we are the minority in numbers,
totally messed up. Go on, yeah.
Well, because we're lower in numbers, we're the minority in numbers.
Yeah.
A lot of times you keep running into like, oh, I want to do this thing, but they won't allow us into school. So what do Black people in the United States do? After the Civil War, we created our own schools. We have a whole network called HBCUs, historically Black colleges, which were founded right after the Civil War because white people were like, can't come to our school. So it's like, okay, we'll make our own school. So
listen, Lavetta, you're preaching information I did not know. I didn't realize it was right after the Civil War that they were.
Oh yeah, immediately.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So HBCUs, all this other stuff. So that's why Madam C.J. Walker is so extraordinary, because in the aftermath and after Reconstruction and after that whole like fucked up thing about that codified Jim Crow laws, Black people have to find a way. So that's why nowadays people are like, well, why do you have to have Miss Black America, Miss da-da-da-da? It's like, because we had to. So
you kicked them out of everything.
You wouldn't even allow them in. Like Viola's trying to become a hairstylist, and she can't even be admitted to any school. So she did go to Montreal, Atlantic City, and then she even ended up at one of Madam C.J. Walker's beauty schools in New York.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So she got her training. So upon finishing her training, she returned to Halifax to start her own hair salon.
Yes. Probably really necessary too, right?
Yeah. And it was called Vi's Studio of Beauty Culture. So she went and got her training, and she brought back, because she always saw a need to provide for women in her area, the Black women in her area. And I'm sure it was very successful. Actually, it was very successful. So now in the early part of the 20th century, with the advent of new hairstyles that demanded special products and maintenance in beauty parlors, and in the area of beauty, especially with Black women, because Madam C.J. Walker and others like her, saw a need, and they're women of vision. So they create these opportunities. But a lot of them, including Viola, it wasn't just enough to create beauty products, but you wanted to create opportunities for other Black women to have their own businesses.
Yeah.
So she basically started a version of what Madam C.J. Walker and other women like her in the States were doing in Canada. So not only did she open up her own studio, but she opened up a school. So other Black women could be trained. Yeah.
I'd never heard of her. Oh my God.
Yeah. And also, just like with the barbershop, everybody are familiar with the barbershop franchise movies where Black men get together and they get to talk and becomes the center of social life. That's the same thing for Black women in the beauty salons. But also when you're training and then open up your own business, it also increases your status in the community.
Yeah.
So in addition to the salon, she opened up the Desmond School of Beauty Culture, so that Black women in the Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Quebec areas wouldn't have to travel so far like she did to get proper training.
Wow. She's incredible. I gotta say that, like, if you think about all it takes in those days, especially, and as a woman in general, to learn a trade and then open your own business is hard enough.
Yeah.
On top of which she had to travel, which was not easy back then. It's not even easy now, frankly, but really hard back then to get her education and then come back and then start her business and then start another business where she trains people. Like, damn.
I think it's really extraordinary. And I think that's lost on a lot of the younger generation, even myself included. When you start doing a lot of, research and learn about history, Black people or minorities or, marginalized people in general back then had much more of a sense of like civic duty to not only help themselves, but help their fellow human beings who were also struggling, because again, she could have just opened up a salon, but she opened up a school that would then properly train other Black women. And this part of the education was also learning how to open up your own business and provide jobs for other Black women in the community.
Which she figured out on her own, from what I'm gathering.
Well, actually, that was that's what Madam C.J. Walker's beauty schools were. they were
Okay.
also designed like that.
That's
So
amazing.
it's not just to sell the products, but also how do you start your own business? So it's kind of like Mary Kay or like Avon.
Kind of.
But you could actually have a physical place though.
Yeah.
Especially at a time like this, because there were probably no salons, like maybe one. So like if you're on the other side of town, then there's another salon, then there's another, then there's another. You know, obviously being
it's
a business
probably-
owner is
I mean,
hard.
So like Mary Kay and Avon are more MLMs. And I feel like this is more just like a regular business.
These are and the Madam CJ Walker thing too. I saw a great documentary on it. They're the precursors for the MLMs.
Really?
Where, yes, like, so they actually, it was like Madam CJ Walker had oh gosh, she basically had a contemporary who she learned from. So it was kind of like the Avon thing where you would start selling these products. So
Right.
you would sell the products from this company, and then that would allow you to bring in more income for you. But you would have to travel around
Didn't
to
she-
sell these products,
But didn't she also, based on the Octavia Spencer movie that I really enjoyed,
which is, yeah, I did too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
it's historically questionable from what I've read.
Well, yeah, it's loosely based on the real
Yeah,
things.
and
It's
they
not
say that it like
accurate.
literally
Yeah.
says, but also thoroughly enjoyable. So go enjoy. But she made her own products too. Yeah.
Yes. So that's what I mean. So like she made her own products, which would make her rich. But she also opened up beauty schools to not only train other Black women in the proper care of like this new hair technique, straightening the hair, but
Right.
also nourishing the hair
Yes.
and using these beauty products. But it also taught them how to start their own businesses.
I mean, that's pretty cool.
So that's what I mean about like the sense of civic duty. Obviously Viola had the same thing because again, she grew up in an area where there were probably no Black salons. So you just have to go to a woman's house. There might be a local lady whose house you can listen. When I was in college
Yeah.
in upstate New York,
Oh my.
we would have to go to a girl's room who would take out a perm box, a relaxer box, and put it in our hair for us.
Okay. That was
because there is no place in the area, because it was a small town, that was a Black salon.
Wow.
And that
Really?
wasn't that long ago. Yeah.
No, it was not that long ago.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So like it was even less of it. And I remember being so frustrated. We couldn't even find like you would go to like this, I forget I don't know, like Wegmans or I forget the drugstore that's up there. Like, but you would go and you couldn't even find like creamer or hair conditioner cream for your hair.
It was like,
You know,
no
as a Black
people
woman.
here. And you were
Right,
like, but
so-
I'm right here trying to give you money.
Yeah. So there was always, you would find a girl or to even get your hair braided. You would find a girl on campus who was probably doing it to make extra money, and you go to her dorm room. You would come you go and buy the perm, and she would put it in your hair for you. So I would imagine that it was like that informal way for Viola when she was growing up. So when she was like, "No, she probably had heard about Madam C.J. Walker, and that's why she eventually went to her school in New York City. But not only do you get the proper instruction on how to, take care of the hair, because that was Madam C.J. Walker's thing. It was about how to grow a Black woman's hair, how to nourish it so you don't lose your hair because you're not taking care of it, and what kinds of products to use. But also along with learning how to do the hair, there was the business side of it. How do you open up a business? So that is what Viola was doing when she came back to Halifax. Okay.
That's amazing that she learned it, figured it out, and then was able to flip it and teach it. I just, as a teacher who sometimes, I teach Pilates, fun fact about me, to be able to create that's a lot of work and really hard. I'm very impressed.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. And again, that civic minded, duty of helping other people in the community. So she opened up her business, and it's small by today's standards, but she opened up her business in her school. And each year about 15 other Black women graduated from the school. all of whom had been denied admission to whites-only training schools.
Oh my God, this world. Okay.
Yeah. So she also started her own line of beauty products, Vi's Beauty Products, and which she marketed and sold herself.
Okay.
Later, she and her husband, Jack Desmond, who had his own barber business, would combine their businesses that was located on Gottingen Street, Gottingen Street. So they had a place where Black people could go.
Gottenham. I assume it's British. Because I'm British.
French. I know.
Gottenham. Oh, then I'm wrong. Then I'm very wrong.
Some people watch one season of Downton Abbey and they think they're British.
You know what, darling? I don't respect that statement because I'm clearly British with a very, very authentic British accent from only one part of Britain.
Brittany.
Britain. I'll stop talking now. Okay, go on.
So she and her husband, again, so they're doing just as well as her parents were doing, probably even better. And, she's a successful businesswoman and her husband is a successful businessman. So these are very respectable Black people, right?
Okay.
Well, a racist is gonna racist. So now for context, in Canada, though racism was not officially entrenched in Canadian society, Black people in Canada and certainly in Nova Scotia were aware that that there was an unwritten code that constrained their lives. Sometimes the limits were difficult to foresee. In a way, the unofficial character of Canadian racism made it difficult to navigate. So in the good old US of A, where we Americanized racism, made it bigger, louder, and put barbecue sauce on it. And Canada, because they're more influenced by the British and the French, and they're a little bit more polite about their racism.
They're like, keep calm and racist on,
Yes. So on November 8th, 1946, so she is what? She was born in 1914, so she is 32? Yeah, 32.
That feels right.
So she's about 32. Businesswoman, successful. I'm sure she's dressed very elegantly. Now, to sell her products, she would often go on business trips and, because you would have to go door to door. Like, that's what I was saying about, like, the MLMs, basically, like, the traveling salespeople were the original, like, proponents of that. Like, you would have to travel around. Now we have
the internet, but they did not.
Right. So on November 8th, 1946, while she was on a business trip to Sydney, Nova Scotia to sell her products, her car broke down in New Glasgow. Glasgow. I think that's how you say it.
No idea.
She was told that she would have to wait a day before the parts to fix it became available. So that's fine. So to pass the time waiting, she went to see a movie. Now, she is in New Glasgow. She's not in Halifax, but she's still in Nova Scotia.
Okay.
Now, there were no segregation laws on the books for movie theaters in Nova Scotia. Because again, the discrimination is different than it is in the States, in Canada. Because in Canada, it seems like, from my research, it seems like a lot of it was dependent on the area you were in. Like there would be certain specific laws that were said or expressed, and there were laws that were not expressed. So it just depends on the area. It's kind of like parking in LA. Sometimes you can find parking and sometimes you can't. Okay.
Racism in Canada is like parking. In LA.
Yeah. So there were no segregation laws technically on the book for movie theaters in Nova Scotia. And the theater had no signs telling patrons about the policy.
Okay.
But in practice, the main floor seats were reserved for white patrons.
Okay, but she doesn't read minds, I assume.
Right. Which is a discriminatory practice permitted in all of Canadian provinces at the time. But again, there was no sign. Yep. So she thought, okay. So she bought a ticket and they sold her a ticket that was for the balcony. But again, she just thought, I'm just going to sit wherever, unaware of the segregation. she was apparently nearsighted, or maybe she just wanted to sit on the floor section.
Listen, how many times, okay, you lived in New York, right? You'd go see like a Broadway show, you'd get the cheapest ticket, and then at intermission, you're like, there's 19 seats I can see close up. You just move every time.
You just move.
You just go.
So the ticket seller followed her into the theater. That's red flag number one, right?
What the fuck? Okay.
And told her that she couldn't sit there and asked her to move. So when she asked to move, she realized what was happening. At first, she was kind of confused. She's like, what's happening? Oh, okay. So she's like, well, I want to sit here because there's probably more seats down there. They probably were empty, knowing racist.
Right.
And so she was like, oh, I'll just pay. Is it a different price? I'll pay more for the main floor if there's like an additional cost.
Right.
I'll just because I want to sit here. And she was told that they don't sell those tickets to, quote, you people, end quote.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
Huh. If
so then she realized.
And you mean aggressively racist and horrible, then what I said is true. Go on.
Yeah. So I would imagine it's like, oh, I'm sitting here. This is better. Ma'am, you can't sit there. Well, why can't I sit here? You're looking around, probably empty seats. Right. Well, because you were sold a balcony seat, not a floor seat. Oh, okay. Well, I'll just pay like whatever. What is it more? Like I'll just exchange it for a floor seat. No, we don't sell tickets to you people. So now you're like, oh, I see what's happening. She balked, of course, because again, she didn't see a sign out front, and she was forcibly removed from the theater.
What the fuck?
They called the cops.
Jesus.
So she was a very small, light-skinned woman, very elegant. That is important because, she's, again, respectable. We think, people are like, well, what were they doing? Were they being belligerent? Da-da-da. Are they thugs? Are they hoods? Are they ghetto? Da-da-da. She's a very refined, well-dressed woman. She's a businesswoman. Obviously, she knows how to speak to people. So they arrested her.
What the fuck? How many times am I going to say what the fuck today? A lot. What the fuck?
They arrested her. She spent 12 hours in jail.
What?
And she had to pay a $26 fine for tax evasion.
I'm sorry, what?
Because the tax on the balcony price of 30 cents was for 2 cents. So they charged her basically with tax evasion because she paid for a 30-cent seat and the floor seat, but sat in the floor seat, which was 2 cents more. Or actually, no, I'm sorry. The floor seats were 40 cents. And so they charged her for tax evasion on the tax for the cost of the ticket.
I hate so many people right now. Yes. Wow.
So the tax on the balcony seats was 2 cents. The tax on the floor seat was 3 cents. So she was convicted of depriving the government of a 1 cent tax.
The government can suck my dick. That's what the government can do. I said it. I'll say it again. What in the fuck?
Yep. She was kept in jail overnight and was never informed about her right to legal advice, a lawyer, or bail. This was her. Yeah.
She wanted to see a fucking movie.
Yeah. Now, I know a lot of people will say she's like the Rosa Parks of Canada, but this actually feels more like what happened to Ida B. Wells on a train, because it's the same thing. I think if I remember correctly, Ida B. Wells she didn't want to sit in, she wanted to sit in the women's car. So the women's car was non-smoking, and it was for ladies. She's a lady. She sat there, and the train conductor came along and was like, no, you have to move to the colored car, which was filled with smoke, all this stuff. It was either a colored car or like a third like class car, even though she had paid for the admission to the women's. And they forcibly pulled her off of the train, and it was so humiliating. So I can only imagine to someone like Viola, who, again, she's known discrimination. She had to go all the way to the States to get, so she's not naive, but you're thinking, I'm presenting in a certain way. I offered to pay the additional amount. There are no signage saying that I can't sit here. So I'm not breaking the law. And I would imagine that when the theater guy came up to her, he was so nasty on top of it.
Yeah, I'm sure he was not kind, like I'm sure he was one of those people, like you see them from afar and you think like, ew, Yeah.
And treating her like she's like nothing. So that happened. So she returned back home to Halifax, and she discussed the matter with her husband, Jack. And Jack told her to let it go.
Yeah.
Which I think that this is really telling for like Black people in general. Like, it's just like, is it really worth you doing anything about it? Like, but like, he's a Black man, so he's had his own issues, I'm sure, own run-ins with this kind of bullshit. But he was just like, just let it go.
Well,
You're
I'm
back
sure
home.
He wants to protect her also to a very large degree,
Yeah. And also, he had grown up in New Glasgow and was not surprised when she told him about it. So he was just like, yeah. And like many other Black Nova Scotians, he had grown accustomed to the racist attitudes. So he was just like, he said, quote, take it to the Lord with a prayer was his suggestion, end quote. Take it to the Lord in prayer, end quote. Yeah. But she was just like, I don't know if this is good advice, but I know it's coming from a good place. But, she was just enraged. She probably was hurt, humiliated, and just enraged at just like the unfairness of it. So she talked to her church leaders, Minister William Purley Oliver and his wife, Perlin of Cromwallis Street Baptist Church.
Okay.
And they encouraged her to take action.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they said that the church would support her. So she decided to take the fight to charge in court. So she had already been convicted of tax evasion. So she decided to fight it. So this is an appeal.
Oh, exactly. She has something pretty specific to be like, actually, no, y'all are racist and assholes. I don't know.
Yeah, and this is where like the Rosa Parks thing is a little bit more in line, because as we know, like throughout history now, like the Rosa Parks, she had the same run-in with that same bus driver, but like Rosa, like a lot of people felt like it was a strategy for the NAACP and the civil rights in the Southern Christian Leadership Conference to use this as a case study. So this is where it kind of aligns along the lines of more of that. So her pastor and the first lady hooked her up with the Nova Scotia Association for the Advancement of Colored People. So the Nova Scotia Canadian version of the NAACP.
I did not know they had one.
Oh yeah, Black people
good
and the diaspora have been doing it. We've been doing it for ourselves for a long time. So Desmond, and just a side note, I would imagine that she and her husband were like, we're not really political people. We just go along to get along. But you can't hide from this kind of like, indignity, daily dignity.
It reminds me of the Sally Bowles comment in Cabaret, a show I was obsessed with in, 1938 Berlin or something like that. Y'all don't come at me. It's been a while, but it's something like right before the Nazis like did what they did. Sally Bowles is like, stop talking politics, Cliff. And that line always like makes my heart drop, because there really is no apolitical stance anymore. And there never has been. There really never has been. But it's scary. I also understand that it's scary.
I understand too. And you think, well, this is not perfect, but let's just go along and get along. Basically what Jack told her.
Right.
So her pastor, but she had the support of her church and the NAACP or the NSAACP. And they contacted a white lawyer. His name was Frederick William Bissett, and he was white, and he had represented numerous other people, and he knew the organization knew him as like an ally.
Okay.
So they hired him to again challenge this, because again they were kind of challenging something that's not explicit. So it's almost like they were challenging them to say it out loud, right?
Right.
So I think these are smart people. So I think they were trying to use it as a test to the Canada's unspoken racial politics and discrimination.
Good.
So again, despite Nova Scotia and other Canadian provinces having Jim Crow laws, for instance, in education, there was no specifically enforcing segregation in theater. So it was in education, which is what she had run up against when she was trying to get instruction on, how to become a cosmetologist
and that's why
hair.
They could do that. Yeah.
Right. So while judgments varied from case to case, two competing principles prevailed in Canadian racial politics: freedom of commerce and an individual's right to freedom from discrimination based on race, creed, or color. Neither principle took precedence over the other in Canadian law. In addition, no court in the province had ruled on the illegality of racial discrimination in hotels, theaters, or restaurants. So basically, they were trying to let sleeping dogs lie. They were trying to avoid the subject.
Yeah.
Or it could be because it's like, oh, we're not like those Americans. It could be like, we're better because the slaves used to flee to come to Canada. We're better than those Americans down there.
Listen, Canada, here's what, not Canada now, but Canada in like the 40s and before now. Listen, you can be better. Like, I encourage you to be better. But for you to be better, you have to then be better. And you're not. You're just different. So that's what I say to the 1940s Canada. Yeah. Thank you. And listen, I love Canada. Like, do you watch Murdoch? Obsessed. I'm obsessed.
I can't get into Murdoch. I could get into other ones, but I can't get into Murdoch.
Listen, I'm on season 8. And it's only because I slowed down. Okay, I have a problem. Can't stop, won't stop. Okay. And we haven't even talked about Anne of Green Gables because, but
no, I love me some Anne of Green Gables now.
So
that's my jam.
It's beautiful. I love it so much. Yeah. All right. Sorry. I love you, Canada, but like, I love America because I live here, but like, we're problematic. Let's call it out.
Yeah. Okay. Again, like, I mean, it's just kind of like in the States. To be fair, it sounds like Canada is much more like New York. Like the northern states in the United States, like they didn't have Jim Crow on the books, but it's the same. It's the same thing.
Listen, I do, because every time Sal and I would go upstate on like a little weekend retreat, and I told you racists love us, and so they'd be like, "Well, you're not the," and I'd be like, "Wow, okay, let me educate again." It's exhausting, and it was like literally every time we went upstate.
Yeah.
So
not even upstate, like, a lot of Black people were thinking, they would move to the north thinking it's better. And it was, because it wasn't so blatant, but it's still racist.
Right.
And then in Canada, again, culturally, they're more polite. So it's it's harder also to fight when it's this polite, right?
It's true. That's actually really true. Because you feel like you can get through your day to day not so stressed, but you can't, because there's that undercurrent that does not go away.
Yeah, and the honestly, the gaslighting is much more insidious because it's harder to get a handle on it, right? Yeah. So Viola and her lawyer knew that they couldn't just come out and say it was discrimination, because they're like, well, there's nothing on the books, right? Also, they don't want to risk alienating the judge, who was probably white, and so white fragility comes into play here. Yeah. Right?
They cry so easily. I mean, it's me too. I get it.
So they also, you want to win. So you come up with a winning strategy. So given the legal ambiguity of the situation, the lawyer chose not to take on the violation of her rights, nor her basic civil rights, nor the right to a fair trial with competent legal representation. He instead argued to dispute the charge of tax evasion.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there's the part of me that's like, no, get him where,
because he also figured, like, since the theater would only agree to sell her a cheaper balcony ticket, even though she had insisted on sitting on the main floor and even offered to pay for that seat, She was only 1 cent short of the tax. So he tried to appeal the decision based on the basis of her being wrongfully accused of tax evasion, not on the basis of racial discrimination.
It seems to me that in history, tax evasion is a great way to get people.
Yeah.
All I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm just thinking about the mafia and things like that. I don't have like any actual information about that, but I seem to recall that's how you get them where it hurts. Like,
that's
actually,
she was not.
In this case, she was not evading your tax. Okay.
No. But unfortunately, this strategy proved wrong. So the appeal never made it to a second trial and was dismissed by the judge, because the judge is no fool. He probably figured out what he was trying to do.
Yeah, but like if I were the judge, I would be like, y'all are bastards. But like, obviously, I'm not going to be like a white man judge in the 40s in Canada. So no one was asking me my opinion at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's also interesting to note that during the proceedings, the issue of race never came up. They were all talking around it. It's the big elephant in the room. Still, it was clear to everyone involved that her real offense, Viola's real offense, was that she had violated the implicit rule that Black persons were to sit in the balcony seats segregated from the white persons on the main floor. That was her real offense, and we all know it.
Yeah.
So after the trial and appeals, her lawyer, Bissett, refused to bill her, of course, and the money was used to support William Perley Oliver's newly established the association, Nova Scotia Association for the Advancement of Colored People. So they knew it was a wash, but they tried. Now, after the trial and the encounter with the legal system in Nova Scotia, her marriage to Jack ended.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I think Viola, Jack really did not want to go to trial, is my guess. I don't know. I'm not them.
Well, I think, it could be that he thought he was marrying someone similar to him who was more focused on, empowering their people through financial means. And unfortunately, with her experience, she realized that that was not enough, that you have to also tackle the social issues. You have to tackle it. Yeah. And by all accounts, this devastated her. Because I would imagine that she felt like maybe he didn't support her. And then he was just like, why don't you get over it? I don't know if that's what he said, but I would imagine it's something like that. But she was described later on, and she described it herself as feeling, quote, bitterly disappointed, end quote.
That's it's so hard to overcome, not just the moment, right? The day where that happened to her, which will scar her forever at the movie theater, but then to go through that trial, to have to sort of relive it, fighting for her rights and her people's rights.
Well, she was told that she didn't matter. Her feelings about it, that it didn't matter. It's not about putting on the right clothes, having the right education, having the right house, having the right type of car. Because at the core of it is rotten, right? At the core of it, it's you're never going to be good enough.
Yeah.
So she was distraught and permanently changed. She would then go on to close her business. And move to Montreal, where she would enroll in business college. She eventually settled in New York City, where she died on February 7th, 1965, at the tender age of 50.
What?
Yeah.
What?
So this happened when she was, 32?
32-ish, yeah.
Yeah, so just about 18 years later, she was buried at Camp Hill Cemetery in Halifax, Nova Scotia.
Okay, so they took her home.
Yeah, and it just, when I read that, I was so sad because, unlike Ida B. Wells, like I said, Ida B. Wells had the same kind of experience.
Yes.
But she got angry, and she used that anger to then become one of the most prolific and powerful reporters on Black life. She's like single-handedly reported the first and most comprehensive reporting on lynching of Black people in the United States. And so it like put a fire under Ida B. Wells. But again, Ida B. Wells is a different kind of person. She had a different kind of experience. But I was so sad for Viola because I feel like there's like millions of untold stories of Black people who had a similar life experience where they thought, okay, if I just present the right way, if I follow all the rules, I will be protected and I will flourish and I'll have a prosperous life. If I just ignore what's going on, if I just ignore the discrimination, keep my head down, it'll all work out. And the one moment she just said something that's so insignificant about sitting and watching a movie. She had given them her money and they treat her like she's like nothing, a vagabond. Like, you know, I mean, you shouldn't treat vagabonds like that. That's a whole time in word, vagabond.
Right.
But like,
actually, those are people too. Yeah.
But we tend to think like, oh, it's just like, I'm thinking obviously of today of like police brutality or like racist incidents that happens throughout to Black people throughout the world, throughout the diaspora. If you just do everything quote unquote right, you'll be safe. And it's a false narrative.
It's a false
not
narrative.
True.
And it's really, really important that word gets out, because I do think, like, as a white person, like, white people PSA, y'all, it doesn't work. Like, I hear it. I kind of hear it like, well, you should do this and you should do that. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. And we need to own that so that we can dig deeper and do better, like, as a whole society.
Yeah. So, I mean, thank God, though, that afterwards she lived this life. And that's why it's important to go on with your life and live as bravely as you can day to day, even after something like this happens, because she does have a legacy. So the legacy of the case in Canada, William Perley Oliver, who headed the Nova Scotia advancement, the NSAACP, he says of her legacy, quote, "This meant something to our people that she would even attempt this. Neither before or since has there been such an aggressive effort to obtain rights. The people arose as one and with one voice. This positive stand enhanced the prestige of the Negro community throughout the province. It is my conviction that much of the positive action that has since taken place stemmed from this." So he feels like basically, and he's saying this 15 years after the incident, he's saying that it basically opened up the floodgates for other people to be, to take a similar stance and stand up and not just go along to get along.
She is a hero. She really is.
Yeah.
Like, in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. Absolutely a hero. Like, she took that hit. She definitely took the hit for others to then come behind her and be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like I said earlier, a lot of people compare her to Rosa Parks, but I actually feel like she's more like what happened to Ida B. Wells on an experience she had on a train in 1884. And so, because also it reminds me of like Viola's going to a public thing, like a theater. Ida B. Wells had this issue on a public transportation, on a train. So where it's just, and what I like about like what made her so brave, she probably didn't die feeling brave, but she was extremely brave because she's like, this is ridiculous. I just gave you my money. I just want to sit here, mind my own business and watch a film. And you assholes they escalated it. They brought in the manager, the theater manager, and then they brought in the cops to pull her out like she's like a criminal when she literally she bought a ticket, and then they charged her. I could just imagine
they kept her in a jail overnight. This woman, this tiny woman who did literally nothing wrong, kept her, like, these motherfuckers, like, who raised them is what I would like to know, because total fail. Fail.
Also, it's a system that's designed to preserve itself. So,
I don't care.
It's like, it's like the Borg, Star Trek is coming back, baby, Picard. The Borg is so like extraordinary because it's like the individual is not important. It's the collective, right? So it's collective discrimination. It's just collective white supremacy. And they have to preserve it at all costs. So whatever mental gymnastics you have to do to ensure that survives, that's what you will do. But thank God, again, this happened to her. And like I said, she passed away in
I'm so
1965.
sad she died so young.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably heartbroken, but but thank God, again, she took that bullet so others behind her could come and break through even more. Now, decades after her death, her story began to receive public attention primarily through the efforts of her sister, Wanda Robson.
Oh, okay.
In 2003, Robson, at the age of 73, enrolled in a course on race relations in North America at University College of Cape Breton, later called Cape Breton University, taught by Graham Reynolds. During the course, Professor Reynolds related the experience of Viola Desmond, prompting Robson, who's her sister, to speak out.
Yes.
So they're probably like, what? You're her sister?
Yeah, right.
So with the help of Reynolds, Wanda began a prolonged effort to tell her sister's story and give it more widespread notoriety and exposure, including the publication of a book that Wanda Robson wrote about her family and her sister's experience called Sister to Courage, that was published in 2010.
That's amazing.
I know. Now, the university established a scholarship campaign in the name of Viola Desmond and her sister Wanda and named a chair in social justice after Desmond.
Oh my God. That's amazing.
Also in 2010, Mayanne E. Francis, Lieutenant Governor of Nova Scotia, unveiled a portrait of Viola Desmond, which is on permanent display in the ballroom at the Government House of Nova Scotia.
Okay. That's what I'm saying. Yes. Apologize. Yep. You can start there. Good.
Also that year, Mayanne Francis as well invoked the royal prerogative and granted Viola Desmond a posthumous free pardon.
Excellent.
It was the first to be granted in Canada.
It took too long. It took too long. But they did it.
They did Canada. It's also a very rare thing. And it's usually based on innocence and recognition that was like, again, because she shouldn't have been convicted. So it was a conviction of error.
No. Yeah.
Now Frances herself, who is a Black Canadian, remarked, quote, "Here I am 64 years later, a Black woman giving freedom to another Black woman," end quote. About her signing of the pardon. Now, in 2012, Viola Desmond was portrayed on a commemorative stamp issued by Canada Post.
Awesome.
In 2016, she was chosen as the first Canadian woman to appear on the Canadian $10 note.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Okay.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
In 2018, she, on Canada's Walk of Fame, her star was unveiled at the Halifax Ferry Terminal.
Oh, that's awesome.
And last year, in 2022, the Toronto International Film Festival announced that the largest screening room at the Tiff Bell Lighthouse will be named the Viola Desmond Theater in this year in 2023.
Yes. So that's what I'm saying. Like, that's right. That's right. Let's go to the movie theater and fix it there. Good job.
Yep. So, and of course, since 2010, where a lot of this took up steam, she's been given a lot, like too many more, honors have been bestowed in her memory.
We can Google.
So again, that's Viola Desmond.
She's amazing.
She was, an amazing, amazing woman. And I'm just so glad that this is obviously, we're just scratching the surface here. And so my sources for this were Wikipedia, of course, Britannica, humanrights.ca. So it's a Canadian website, humanrights.ca, and multiple videos, because they've done, obviously, like short videos, that I found on YouTube that are from like PBS, like BBC.
Very cool.
Because again, since 2010, because her sister was tireless along with this professor, they really got the word out about her legacy.
And that's your big point, that there's gotta be, and I know there is so many more stories like this.
Yep.
That we just don't know because we don't we're not good at teaching those moments to children.
And this is also what they're trying to do in the States. Like, that's why when DeSantis is like, I don't want to, there, AP history, Black history doesn't have any value, people would say racists would say Viola Desmond's story has no value. Of course it has value. She's a Canadian citizen. She's a Canadian hero. And the Canadian children should know about her, and American children should know about her. British children should know about her. We should all know about her.
Well, that's the thing that gets me about that whole thing that makes me want to pull my hair out and die, is that the reality is we've just not been teaching actual history.
Yeah.
Like, we've been teaching 1/200th of history. It's not like, I'm not saying we're teaching lies specifically, but maybe lies of omission.
Oh yeah.
So maybe we are teaching lies, because
it's definitely lies of omission.
Listen. Right now we're recording. It's around President's Day, and I cannot tell you how many years do I have to sit my children down and say no president was perfect, and George Washington had slaves. So we are not deifying the man. Yes, we won the war. Britain was bad, but
and also, you know what? Two things can be true. Two things can be true. And I think, unfortunately, these people are just and I hate this thing when they use white children as an excuse. They're like, we don't want white children to feel bad. First of all, kids are way smarter than adults.
Yeah, they are.
But they'll just be like, oh, that was just wrong. That was mean.
Yeah.
They're not like, that was me. They were like, oh, those people were mean.
White
Let's
children
not do that.
are very clear. Listen, I remember my kids went to a school when they were around 5. That was very, very, they did the best they could to be very inclusive and be as honest as they could within what they are given to teach. And when they did teach about slavery. That was, and we got an email from their teacher saying, hey, we are going to teach this now, not asking parents, telling parents, we're teaching this. It always breaks our heart because we take away some innocence, but it's also really important to delicately share that, and they did it in such a beautiful way. My kids are fine. My kids did not feel like they did anything wrong. They are
because kids are
smart.
No, they're not afraid that white kids are going to feel bad. They're afraid that white kids will stop doing it. They're afraid that the white kids will grow up and become white adults who are like, racism's bad.
Lavetta,
that's what they're afraid of.
I think the term is nail on the head. I think you hit the nail on the head. There is no, white children do not feel bad about, I have 2 white children.
These children grow up and they're like, oh, that's wrong. That's what they're afraid of.
Yep. And because
kids are smart, they're like, that's not me.
Yeah.
Let's not do that anymore.
Exactly. That was bad. That was wrong. We're gonna be better. End of story. Let's go play a game. I'm 5. Yeah. I've moved on, but you still racist.
So this whole mess about, the white kids are gonna feel bad. That's not true. That's a farce. So but that is Viola Desmond.
She is amazing.
A Black woman, a Canadian Black woman who is going to help me keep my Black card this month because I like yacht rock, and I feel like I've evened things out, so I can get my jam to Christopher Cross and not feel guilty. Good
luck with that. Awesome.
All right, darling. Who's your notorious woman this week for us?
My notorious woman this week is a woman. Now, she is amazing. She's Chinese. And so when I butcher names, I apologize.
Okay.
I am not trying to butcher names, but I am not very good at this. So, best I can. So just to share, I got my information from both World History Encyclopedia and also Wikipedia and some guesses. So, if you know more than me, you share with
guesses.
me.
Hashtag not historians. Not the guesses.
Not historians. Her name is Zheng Yi Sao.
Zheng Yi Sao. Okay.
Yes. She was born in 1775 in Jinhui, Guangdong. Listen, okay, I said that wrong. I'm just going to assume I said that wrong.
Yeah, you probably said it wrong, but I don't know how to say it right, so I'm going to shut up now.
Fair enough. All right. So we don't know anything about her childhood. She was born in 1775. It is surmised that when she was a teenager, she worked as a prostitute, probably on a floating brothel in the region she was born. I'm not saying it again. It was we know that in 1801 she married Zheng Yi. So in Chinese, her name is Zheng Yi Sao. I think it's switched, so the last name comes first and the first name comes last.
Okay.
So
switch from like the way we do it in the
order.
States.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So she married Zheng Yi at 16, he was the leader of a large pirate confederation. Okay. Oh. And this pirate confederation caused terror in the South China Sea. Okay, so here's how it worked. I'm gonna do backstory. Her husband Zheng, the guy she just married, right, had built up this force to around 600 ships and up to 40,000 men. They were divided into 6 divisions. I know, right? That's a lot of people to organize back then, right? And they each led, so the 6 divisions were each led by an independent commander, and they operated sort of under him in an agreed area, right? Like you get that beach and you get that beach, and then you go all the way over there and get that other beach, right? So they were identified by their specific colored flag. So Zheng Yi commanded the largest one, which was the 200-ship Red Flag Fleet. They attacked ships from Hong Kong to Vietnam, including foreign ships and large merchant vessels carrying goods to and from China and Malaysia.
Wait a minute. Back up.
Okay.
So you said they had different colors. So these are gangs. These are Bloods and the Crips. This is a feudal Bloods and the Crips.
I mean, I think the answer to your question is yes.
But they came together with an alliance. Right. Like, yes. Okay.
It was he was like head gang member or head like leader. I don't know how these things work. I've seen West Side Story. That's all I know.
Okay, this is like, gangsta. Okay.
It's like Riff. I don't know.
I mean, they were pirates, so there's that.
I mean, right? I mean, like literally. They captured gold and silver and rolls of silks and spices and Chinese porcelain and tea and cotton. Okay, but that's not interesting. What is interesting is that Zheng Yi, her husband, was killed in November of 1807. So they were married for about 6 years. It says either in action or in a typhoon. I don't know.
Oh.
I mean,
it's what did you say, 1700s?
1807.
1807, yeah. So it's probably hard to.
Yeah, probably both. Maybe both.
So she's 22 when he dies.
Yeah. So she is. Yeah, she's done more in her life by 22 than I will ever do. And I'm actually kind of okay with that. I get seasick, anyways.
I am such a black stereotype. I can swim. But I do not. Maybe it's my African blood. My ancestors are traumatized for that Atlantic trip.
Okay.
But cruise, hell no. I do not want to be in the middle of the damn ocean.
Listen,
I would not have been on the Titanic. Nope. My black ass would not have been on it.
White Midwestern male husband fully agrees with you. So it could be lots of things. Anyways, he told me before we got married, he's like, we're never going on a cruise. Like, if this is a problem, we can't get married. Like, this was
because I just feel like you don't know what's in the ocean.
Listen,
it covers most of the world.
That's what Sal says. Yeah.
And waves that are like, no, I'm just asking. I feel like you're just asking for it if you're on a cruise. I just,
Listen, when COVID first hit and those people were on a cruise and Sal looked at me like, I told you. I've been right the whole time.
Nope.
I'm not really fighting him. I'm like, we can vacation in all kinds of ways. That's fine. But I do love the beach and I do love swimming in the ocean.
The beach is different, especially if it's like turquoise colored water. If it's clear, a white sandy beach. I've been to Bermuda, Hawaii. I can hang with that, right? But not in the Atlantic fucking Ocean, in the Indian Ocean, the Black Sea. No, I'm not doing none of that. None of that.
So I guess
on a ship? No.
Okay, so your future as a pirate is no more?
More.
Okay.
No more.
So I'll cross that off the list. Okay. This is good to know.
It's for the birds.
Me, on the other hand.
Yeah.
We took a boat to the Channel Islands last summer. And I was like excited for adventure. And then I like last minute went, oh shit, I should probably buy a pill. Because I was like, I'm probably not okay. I am my mother's daughter. And I was correct. I needed that. My kid was not okay
I will,
also.
I will tell you, like, the idea of laying naked somewhere on a yacht in the Mediterranean where it's like sunny and sexy men's rubbing my feet. That sounds great. Like in my mind's eye. But the reality of it, because once I get on there and it's just something about looking down in that water and I'm like, what is down there? That freaks me out. Like, I was just like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. But I guess, listen, she probably was captured by her husband.
Yeah.
She probably didn't have much of a choice.
This was not a love story. I'm going to venture to say, you know. But me in the Mediterranean, I'll just jump in. But that's me. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying that I have a problem.
What's in there?
I'll let you know.
Okay.
What's so funny, because like I love it, but every time I've gone snorkeling, like Sal can actually snorkel for like double the time I can because that salt like gets to me and then I want to throw up. Like my genetic ability to do all these ocean things is not strong, but my willingness is very strong. So
yeah, I mean, and snorkeling's different. I feel like because you're in like pretty clear water and like, but that thing where they get in the cage and the shark, I ain't doing that. Nope.
Okay, that I agree with.
Nope.
I agree.
Because if the shark eats you, that's your fault. That's on you. I mean, the shark's just doing what a shark does. Like, you don't want to talk about, let me touch the shark. Nope. Nope. That's on you, player. That's on you.
Just I think you've successfully convinced me to officially never swim with sharks.
Yeah. Okay. Hell no. No. Yeah. What is this? Unless you're training to be a Navy SEAL or something. What? Nope. So I'm sorry. Back to your story.
No, that's
some bullshit. That's what we like to call, black people like to call it, that's white people shit. But even the white people I know are like, nah, that's some crazy people shit.
That's like crazy white people shit. And it is white people shit, for sure.
That's like Florida man shit. Like, no. Yeah.
It's Florida white people shit.
Yeah.
I always wanted to swim with dolphins.
Yeah, that seems kind of cool. But again,
I'd have to like double check that the dolphins are like super good with it, you know?
The only thing that wouldn't be so bad because I heard dolphins are gangster. Like they will kill a shark. Like they are gangster. They look cute, but they are gangster. Like they travel in a pack and they don't be fucking around. So,
well, I've swum in La Jolla, you know, in San Diego, where the the dolphins are. They're actually not dolphins. There's something else. Oh my god, what is it? I don't remember. They're like dolphins.
Nope.
And I like jump in the water and Sal's like, you're crazy. And I'm like swimming with them. And he's like, they're just peeing on you right now. And I was like, yeah, I know. It's fine. I'm like dunking my head under. I'm like, this is amazing. And he's like, I'm not touching you till you showered.
The dolphins are laughing. Dumb humans. We're just peeing on them.
Yeah. Dumb human right here. I'd probably do it again. Yeah, I would.
Oh, God.
Okay. So, husband is dead. The other 5 pirate captains had to decide on a successor, and they chose her. So, Zheng Yi Sao is now head of this huge fleet. So it actually wasn't uncommon. So I should say it was common. That's clearer, I think, for Chinese women to be mariners or captains or involved in piracy. So it wasn't like that out of the blue, I suppose. But I mean, she was 22. She was probably captured to be married to the guy. And she was probably like badass, is my guess.
She had to be badass for the men to be like,
yeah,
let the woman do it. Okay.
Right. And they all, it seemed like they all just agreed. It was fine. They're like, yeah, that's fine. So according to, there's a little discrepancy between World History Encyclopedia and Wikipedia. And I'll just share.
Okay.
So this is, she had one serious rival or ally, depending on how things panned out. So Cheng Pao, was a captain of one of the Red Flag ships. Remember, the Red Flag had like 200 ships. And he had been a protege of Zheng Yi, of her now dead husband. And then it also says that the two men had been lovers, which was not unusual, like between a junior and senior Chinese pirate.
Okay. Get your freak on.
Do what you gotta do. As long as you're honest with all the people you are getting your freak on with, I don't care what you do. But then he became Zheng Yi Sao's lover.
So was it a thruple? No, I'm just kidding.
Right? I'm pretty sure you know.
Hi, everybody getting your freak on.
Let's do it. Let's do this now.
Okay.
And then he was promoted to Red Flag Fleet to lead the Red Flag Fleet, and he became her second in command. Okay. Two other sources. Oh man, I don't remember the other one. Said that Cheng Pao was an adopted son of her first husband, having first been kidnapped when he was 15, which would also make her his stepmom.
Oh.
Okay, right? So listen, different sources say different things. My guess is that he was kidnapped. They did that back in the day, and you were a pirate. And that legally they probably did an adoption so that he had a connection, so that if anything happened, he could take over. There would be like a lineage. That's my guess.
I see what you're saying.
That is my guess.
I mean, I would imagine also that that it's, this becomes your found family,
right,
and not the blood family. Like, and also, it could have been a little bit of both. Like, I think first of all, this would be a great soap opera on the ship.
Where is this movie? Come on.
Oh my God.
Man.
I'm sure they've made it in China somewhere, like a version of this, but like, but it's hard to tell because you never know, because it's so old and it's, we're in the West, how accurate. I'm sure Chinese sources are more accurate. But then again, you never know how much of it is like just romantic. Because I have a feeling like the pirates didn't look like Johnny Depp in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Wait, what? They didn't what? I'm sorry,
no,
what?
I have a feeling that they looked more like oh God.
Like Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt. So many options.
No.
Idris?
I have.
Okay.
No, I feel like they probably look more like, I think, was it the third and the fourth Pirates of the Caribbean when they actually went to Singapore, and then you start to see Chow Yun-fat, I think is one, but he's like, because Chow Yun-fat's very handsome, like he's a movie star, but like I think they uglied him up, like they like blackened his teeth, and like he's just he did not look handsome. That's probably what pirates actually look.
It's probably that nobody was very pretty, having no access to any sort of hygiene.
Yeah.
I mean, like pirates discovered scurvy. That we discovered scurvy because pirates.
It's a hard life. So, but I just wonder, like, it's interesting that those two stories are very different. Like one, that was his lover. Oh, that was his adopted son. You're I hope it's not both.
That's why I'm like, almost going to tell you, but we'll see. There's more that'll consider.
Either one's really interesting, though, I have to say.
Yeah. So the pirate fleet had grown under Zheng Yi's final year in charge before he died. And his widow continued the trend. So the 6 fleets combined numbered around 800 large ships by 1807. So, and also a lot of these ships were called junks, which was like a junk ship was not a bad ship. I thought it was like, oh, those are bad ships. But no, I guess they could carry a lot of cargo and they could carry cannons and they could go into shallow waters for sneak attacks. So,
sucky now. That's
right?
old school. Sneak attack. Sneak attack. I'm sorry, I can't help myself.
No, get it, girl. Don't let me stop you. The number of pirates grew correspondingly, and her confederation may have numbered over 70,000 men.
Damn.
So, I will
That's
say,
what I'm talking about.
Like, she's a badass, but she's a badass bitch, and I'm pretty sure she like robbed and murdered people.
Pirates.
You know. So for 3 years after, like, she became head, she beat out everyone. She caused terror along the coast of southern China. Thousands of civilians were robbed, murdered, and sold into slavery. So, it's not great. Pirates.
Well, that's pirates.
I wrote, I would say she's more like Darth Vader than Luke Skywalker, when deciding how to view her. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, it's hard. Heavy is the head that wears the crown, right? It's hard being in charge. No, I'm just...
I know. Heavy is the head that wears the crown.
I'm not surprised, though, because women are better at all things than men are. I'm just kidding.
Obviously. Duh.
Women have periods. They bleed.
Yeah,
and
bleeding.
They give life and produce children and...
Well, that's disgusting.
And put up with all kinds of things. So of course they can lead a bunch of men into rape and pillage and murder. Of course they can.
Like in their sleep, they can.
But I'm more interested in how she was able to continue to, because also I think, is it like, you hear about like Blackbeard and because it's like, who's to know if the legends about Blackbeard were really true or if they were all like spread like as propaganda so people are afraid of him. That's what I'm more interested in, because they tend to try a woman more to like test that. So the fact that they were all afraid of her and they still followed her, I'm very curious to learn about her tactics.
So I'm actually so this is what I read. So they took on they were such badass. So they could even take on small naval fleets of the European powers. So, so one member of the British Royal Navy, I'm going to quote him. He made a remark after two of his boats tried to unsuccessfully warn off the pirates. The British Royal Navy, let's be clear, they have a lot of power. So he says about 60 or 70 sail of ladrones passed. I don't know what that means exactly, but, boats, in the most impudent manner within range of the guns. Determined to punish the presumption of these pirates, the frigate opened a smart fire on them, which was received by the ladrones, the boats, with the utmost coolness and indifference and without even returning a shot. They were just like, yeah, you can't catch us. You're going to do nothing.
Wow.
And if they were smart enough to surrender without a fight, they were usually left alone and they would just lose their cargo. And if they did put up a fight, they faced torture or execution. So, right.
A girl's got to do what a girl's got to do. A pirate's got to do what a pirate's got to do.
Pirates got to do what a pirate's got to do. Doesn't that feel like a song from the 50s?
It does.
I don't think it is, though.
I get it from Rugrats. The baby's got to do what a baby's got to do.
That's pretty cute, I gotta say. Rugrats. So European mariners did a little bit better because they could be ransomed. Because white men, they go for a lot, I guess. I don't know what you want to do with that white man, but okay. So many were kept in cramped and filthy conditions for months. And there's a sailor, Richard Glasspool, fourth officer on the captured Marquis of Ely. I don't know. Is that France, maybe? I don't know. That feels French.
Sounds French.
Doesn't it, though? But I said his
I have
name
to say it like
he's
that.
British.
French.
That's like my friend that 100 years ago we backpacked through Italy and she just kept saying Italian, like in Italy. And I was like, girl, please, I just beg you to
she born in 1954. Italians.
Like she must have. She looked really good though because she pretended to be 23. And I was like, they already know we're American. It's a little worse when you say Italian.
Oh my God, it's hilarious.
He was kept in a rat-infested hold on one of her pirates' ships for 4 months. He ate caterpillars and rice to survive. He describes the operation of the pirates. So he says the Chinese captured were given. So if you were captured and you were Chinese, you were given the choice of joining the pirates or being flogged to death, which is maybe how they grew their fleet so big. Because I would choose piracy. I would love to be.
Where's my eye patch? Like, where's my?
I be ready. Is this what we sound like? Was that right?
Listen. I'm a scaredy cat.
Me too.
Where do I sign?
I'm not going to be any good to you, but
nope.
Totally. Do you want me to organize your books? I could do that.
Because flogging doesn't sound pleasant at all.
No, thank you. No, I say no to that. Yes. So the European mariners were forced to assist in attacks on villages. Gross, where the pirates collected the heads of their victims, tying pairs together using the pigtails and wearing them around their necks as gruesome trophies.
Yeah.
It's so gross.
Part of me is like, is this real or is it like,
I don't know,
advertising?
I mean,
because it seems like a lot of work. Like, you just want the money, the booty. Give me the booty.
Like to make that happen, to make that necklace, like, there's a lot of work involved.
I know.
So this guy, Glasspool, his gunnery skills meant that he was used by her to operate the cannons. And the Englishmen seemed to have become a favorite of her, as believing it would ward off any chance of injury. She's said to have sprinkled garlic water over him before each battle. So, while he was super captive and eating horrible things to survive, they also, who knows if any of this is real, right?
Right. But also the caterpillar, I'm thinking, was it prepared, or are they crawling around and he just grabs them and eat them? But if there's rice involved, because you got to cook rice. So,
I mean, maybe it was in the rice, because if you cook rice and then leave it for a long time, in barrels that are not airtight, things will get into that rice.
But he's eating the rice, so I'm assuming he's eating cooked rice. So, I see what you're saying. So they scoop it out of the barrel and then cook it. Oh, okay.
Which is protein. Whatever. It's protein.
Yeah.
I mean, he lived to talk about it.
Caterpillar sounds like it's a delicacy somewhere. I feel like.
It is. I think. Okay. Listen, I saw a food show about it. I'm not going to pretend I remember where it is. It's somewhere else. I know that. It's not here. But maybe it will be here, because it's a good form of protein.
So he's saying that to the English who are like, oh my God, caterpillar, this sounds terrible. But probably from another culture, they're like, that sounds like a decent meal.
I'm going to go that Glasspool did not appreciate it.
No. Okay,
I'm going to go with that.
Yeah.
With a name like Glasspool, I'm just saying. So she stayed in the Canton area, which was a major trade hub of that coast. And so this is a fun, good time. In July 1808 and July 1809, she twice obliterated the Chinese naval fleets guarding the river delta between Portuguese Macau and Canton. The first battle took 16 hours, and the Chinese admiral committed suicide after they lost.
Wow.
Yeah. So the second attack required more imagination since both fleets were becalmed. Okay, I learned a word. I'm going to share it. Becalmed means unable to move for lack of wind. It makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm reading this like, oh, I don't know. I don't know what that means. That's fine. I learned. I grew. So she ordered her men to swim in that ocean that you were thinking about a few minutes ago, Lavetta, to the ships, board them, and they did it. The coastal towns were then torched, and their heads were hung in a large tree on the coast as a warning to others. Okay, what? Okay.
Now,
all right.
that makes sense because it's like beware, right?
Yeah. I mean,
like, but around your neck, that's heavy.
Right? Like it would hurt, like your shoulders, like you need a massage. Yeah. You know, like from wearing it for too long, you'd be like, is a chiropractor around here somewhere? Okay. Sorry. I lost focus. Okay. So part of her success was her management skills. Now, when I first read this, one of the rules, there are rules that they had for the entire fleet, which was a slightly different approach from her husband who had passed, her late husband. So one of the rules was no abuse of women, captured or otherwise, is permitted without permission from the quartermaster, which is great because that's not usually the story we are told about a pirate.
Right.
However, a pirate may buy a captured woman for his wife for $40, if she wasn't going to be held as ransom.
Question.
Yeah. What's your question, Lavetta?
Who are they paying?
That's a good question.
$40 to?
I'm going to guess her. I'm going to guess.
Oh, okay. Because the captives are property of the Pirate Federation. Her.
I feel like it's not the families. I'm not getting that. I'm not getting that vibe. Hey, tell me I'm wrong. But Wikipedia was like, that's not actually true. This wasn't her rule. This was her stepson. The Cheng Pao's rule that he did that. She continued it, but it was not her idea.
Her stepson or her husband?
We'll get to that. Let's just call him her stepson right now.
Okay.
So also a pirate can't go ashore without permission. The first punishment for that is to have your ears slit. The second punishment was death. Captured goods are to be registered before shared out. An individual ship that captures a cargo may keep 1/5. The rest is to be added to the general prize fund of the whole fleet. And townsfolk must be paid for their provisions. Cute, right? That was not really applied, though. Like, they really didn't get their money, as far as I could. Yeah. Okay. So let's see. Okay. And then there's more punishments, like the punishment for like stealing from the common treasure was like death by beheading. They were not playing.
I just love how like going ashore by yourself is you slit your ears and then the second offense is death. Like,
I mean, they just really, you can't like cut off my arm or something first. Like,
it's like death. Wow. Okay.
But if you raped a female captive, you would also die. And that I agree with 100%.
Oh,
yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she eventually kind of became a victim of her own success. Piracy was so widespread and the disruption to regional trade was so great that large cities were struggling to feed their populations. So finally, the Chinese authorities pushed themselves to a greater effort in stamping out the pirates. So she gave up her piracy in style. Okay. She sailed her entire fleet, all flags flying, into Canton Harbor, marched up to the authorities, and demanded a pardon on April 18th, 1810. She gained her pardon with favorable terms, so the pirates could keep their plunder, but had to give up most of their ships and weapons. Cheng Pao also did as well, but he was also permitted to keep 20 of his junk ships and was made a naval mandarin. Okay. So many of the pirate crews were just recruited into the Imperial Chinese Navy if they wished, but they didn't have to. They were then tasked, if they did join, to stamp out piracy in the region. So a lot of them did that. Now, some pirates just continued to be a pirate.
They're like, fuck this. Yeah, I'm a pirate for life, bitches.
Peace. Then Zheng Yi Sao married Cheng Pao. That's why we were like, her husband or her son. And I was like, well, because she then married him. They settled in Canton before moving to Fukien, and they had a son together. She eventually returned to Canton and spent the rest of her career managing a large and successful smuggling racket fronted by a gambling house. That, like, well done. She knows.
She's like, I can't go completely straight.
That just didn't feel right. She died at the age of 69 in 1844. She actually inspired many fictional female pirates. It's funny you mentioned the
Pirates of the Caribbean,
because there's the character of Mistress Ching is I think inspired by her. That's what Wikipedia tells me.
And I mean, she died almost at 70. That's an old age for a pirate.
I just can't, like,
she retired out of the game.
Did she ever see a doctor? You know what I'm saying?
I know, like,
and on those ships for all those years.
See, because, you know, at first when you hear like, oh, they surrendered, but I would imagine being on that ship on water constantly can get to you after a while, even if you love the wildlife and the free life in the ocean. But like, yeah, it's like time to go legit, but not quite legit enough. We gotta have a little something on the side.
Yep.
And can you say her name again?
Honestly, I don't know. So I'm gonna try.
Okay.
Her name is Zheng Yi Sao.
Zheng Yi Sao.
Yeah, like you'll look up how to spell it on a little podcast. It'll tell you, right? And then you could be like, "Listen, girl, that is not how you say that." And I will be like, "I am so sorry."
Yeah, if we have any native or any Chinese speakers, Cantonese or Mandarin, I don't know which one it would be, please correct us because we'd love to know how to pronounce her name correctly.
We would.
You know?
We would.
Also, let's just think about this. She started off, she probably was forced into prostitution by either life,
100%.
circumstance, or some other person, but then became head of a pirate. Like,
listen, I know she committed like lots of murder and things and pillaging, but she started out life probably out with zero control of her whole life, including her body. And then she just like whipped it around. It was like, okay, bitch, let's play.
And then retired on her own terms at 69. And like...
Oh, no, she was younger when she retired.
No, but died at like 69. But like, she got out of the game.
Yeah. And like did really well and like kept her money. And then like, I'm going to get married, have a kid.
That's the thing. She kept her money.
Yeah.
And then got married to either her brother...
I don't know. It's fine.
Her, not blood brother, but either her adopted brother or
stepson. It would be her
stepson or like, yeah. I wonder though if they were closer in age than her and her husband.
I was thinking that. I bet you that was really the situation.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. That was, welcome. Wow. And man, we had two amazing ladies again. Our ladies were notorious. Well, the pirate lady is still unsure.
She killed a lot of people, so
whereas Viola was like trying to like just give black women nice hairstyles.
Yeah,
so they can look pretty.
She's amazing.
Yes. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I guess that wraps it up for another episode of Notorious Women. Guys, follow us on all the things. I will let Miriam take over to let you know where you can follow us. But I do know this. What you can do while she's preparing that is to share us. Tell all your friends, your family, your loved ones, maybe people you hate.
Maybe
you want to be passive aggressive and you have a trifling friend or frenemy that you want to be like, this you, bitch. And you want to bring her into, have her listen to it, or him or they, because on this podcast, we are inclusive. So whatever pronouns you go by, that is what we will respect. Because we're human beings with compassion and not douchebags who have hateful hearts.
I didn't realize that was such a precious commodity these days, but it's a little bit it is. So we're here for you, though.
Whatever pronouns you want to go by, and whoever you want to send this podcast to, click the link. I would say copy and paste the link and send it to your friend or loved one, because people forget things. They're like, what is that? If they're like my family, who's loud and Southern, Southern people love to make up words for things that don't exist. So to be like the Notorious, the Notorious, what the people name is, that is how we do it in the South. So to clear up any confusion, copy the link, send it to your friend, loved one, and share our show, download and subscribe. And
also, like Apple Podcast, if you want to click the 5 stars, click the 5 stars. And then if you want to click write a review, you could say how pretty we are.
Yep. And smart.
Oh yeah, that too.
And creative and innovative.
Interesting. Fascinating.
I
like fascinating.
I do too. I love fascinating.
I want someone to call me fascinating.
Miriam.
What?
You're fascinating.
Oh, thank you so much.
Where can our listeners find us?
Okay, I got it. I'm ready. So you can check us out on Instagram. It is Notorious Women Podcast. Please check us out. Listen, we need your help. We have some men who are not so nice, who are making some comments. So come on down. Check us out. Also, I think it's kind of funny. Not what the men are saying about things,
It's funny how triggered they get over the smallest thing.
And it is, listen, check out our Instagram. It is the smallest thing.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's crazy. But we are also at Gmail. So notoriouswmpod@gmail.com. Send us a message. Send us women you think might be interesting that may be not on our radar. We'd love that. Or any comments or pronunciations you can share.
Yes.
And that is
we will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.